Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Responsive Nonprofit Summit. Glad you could be with us on this Thursday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jason Van Loo. I'm the VP of Product here at Virtuous. If you've been on the conversation stage in the last couple of days, you'll see that I'm not Eric Tamales, who has been your host for the last few days. So I'm going to be taking over this session and really excited about this session. Candace Cody is here from Community Boost, and we're going to dig into some amazing data-related topics, specifically the top digital strategies uncovered from 5,000 nonprofits. So I think, Candace, that's a pretty good sample size, and we should be able to get some very interesting insights coming out of that. So without further ado, Candace, I'm gonna turn this over to you and let you run with it. Thanks so much for being here. And really excited to dig into this topic this morning.
Thanks so much, Jason, for having me. I am so excited to be here with you all today. I see Carly in the chat. It's always nice to see a familiar face. So I am so excited to be here at the Responsive Nonprofit Summit. What you all are doing over at Virtuous is so amazing. I think this might be my third time speaking at RNS. And so I want to hear from you just what your favorite part of RNS has been so far. Let's get that going in the chat. And I would love to get into our topic today, which is going to be accelerate your growth in 2024, the top digital strategies that we've uncovered from over 5,000 nonprofits who have answered our survey. We just launched our nonprofit acceleration report yesterday. So we're going to be going over 9 top insights that you can take home with you. I know that with many of these report type sessions, it can get a little dry, a little heavy on the stats. This session is different. You are going to be interacting with me throughout the whole experience. So get ready to answer some polls in just a little bit. And if you don't know Community Boost, so again, my name's Candace. I'm the director of events at Community Boost, and Community Boost is the leading digital agency for nonprofits. We do digital marketing and community-first marketing for nonprofits. We've worked with over 1,300 nonprofits over the last 12 years, helping them raise about $115 million in donations. And we're so proud to also host the Nonprofit Marketing Summit. So shout out if you know me from the Nonprofit Marketing Summit, which has thankfully been able to impact over 100,000 nonprofits over the last few years. So I want to get into our topic today. That's enough about me, but truly, as we are looking at just the state of the sector, truly the only thing that is constant is change. This is a quote from 500 BC. It was true then. It's even truer now. There's this quote that really resonated with me from Eric Astro Teller. It's really the thoughts behind his book, Thank You for Being Late. And he said, even though human beings and societies have steadily adapted to change, on average, the rate of technological change is now accelerating so fast that it has risen above the average rate at which most people can absorb all of these changes. So the world is constantly changing. Things are constantly shifting, but even so, especially now in this digital first, really forward-thinking world, things are moving so fast. We have AI, we have all these things. It's really, really hard for nonprofit professionals to keep up. It's really hard for people to keep up. And so even more so when it comes to evolving our organizations to really grow and accelerate in today's world. So we're going to get into all of this and how you can accelerate your nonprofit's growth. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the 2024 Nonprofit Acceleration Reports. Then we're going to go into the too long, didn't read the top 9 insights from the 2024 Nonprofit Acceleration Report. We have practical takeaways that you can do with these insights that you can take home with you. And we'll have hopefully time for some Q&A. So might go a little quick through the too long didn't read portions. You can always get the report and actually take all of these insights home with you later as well. But I just want to give you just a little bit of a background on the acceleration report. So the acceleration report has one goal. It's to identify the current and future state of digital marketing for nonprofits. It's all about how, like, what is currently working for the nonprofits that we surveyed, and what are they likely to try this year or going into next year. So this helps you identify the exact strategies that you can use that are actually proven to accelerate your nonprofit's growth. So you're going to want to incorporate these ideas, these strategies into your plans this year, because I do think that, like that quote that I shared earlier, there's so much out there. It can be really overwhelming. It's hard to know exactly what strategies actually are the right things that you should be testing for your organization. So my goal here today is to help accelerate your nonprofit's growth with all the data that and insights that we pulled from the report. So we had 5,208 responses to our 2024 Nonprofit Acceleration Report. This is a huge data set. Last year, we had 1,200 responses. We had a 333% increase in responses from just last year. So this data set is massive, and it really does give us a real pulse on what is happening and the trends in the sector. And we surveyed those in all different types of job roles. There's a lot of leaders, those founders, board members, executive directors, and also the doers, the ones that are actively implementing these marketing and fundraising strategies. So you'll see a lot of marketing directors, development and marketing teams, as well as communications teams. So again, giving us a real holistic pulse on what really is actually working for nonprofits. And we did survey nonprofits of all shapes and sizes. So you can kind of see the breakdown here. It's pretty evenly split, giving us a good insight into what's working at small as well as large organizations and all the organizations in the middle. And we also took into account that it's not just about how much revenue an organization brings in, it's also about the number of employees. So we broke this down as well, and we're able to actually pull out insights based on all of these segments to give more specific data. So wherever your nonprofit lies, you're going to be able to find data points in here that also serve and speak to exactly where your nonprofit is, as well as just get a good pulse on the whole sector. Because we know that the strategies that work for large nonprofits are not always the same things that work for small organizations. So we also broke it down by organization categories. Again, you'll have these slides to go back to later, so I'm not going to get into the full breakdown because I do want to get to so much good content here today. So let's get into the too long didn't read version of the 2024 Nonprofit Acceleration Reports. And I just want to invite you now. It's accelerationreport.org. You can go ahead and download it, and you'll be able to take all of this home with you. It's 29 pages. I really encourage you to not just read it, but also share it with your leadership team, share it with your board, because it really can help inform a lot of your strategies and decisions for the rest of the year. So I talked a lot already. Now I want to hear from you. So first question that I have for you here today, and I really encourage you to engage in all of these polls because it will help you benchmark yourself so that you can find where you fit in with, all of the stats that I'm going to be sharing. So what do you expect revenue will look like at your nonprofit in 2024? Are you expecting a large increase in revenue? We categorize this as a 15% or higher increase in your revenue from last year, an increase in revenue from 4 to 14%. This is a moderate to large increase as well. the same. So accounting for, some inflation, the 0 to 3% increase, decrease in revenue, -1 to -5, large decrease, -6 or lower. So let's go and see those stats. I want to get a feel for who's in the room here today, and this really will give us a great idea and breakdown. So now is the time. Go ahead and vote. What you think versus what accounting thinks. Yeah, that is some discrepancy there, I'm sure. And are we able to see those responses? Let me see if I can break this out.
We're checking now, Candace. I'm not sure that I can see them yet.
All right. And that's okay too, So it's again more about benchmarking yourself so that when I go to the next slide, you're able to kind of see where your organization fits.
I do know, Candace, I heard, what was it? Well, 6.5 or like close to 7% were large increase in revenue or higher.
Yeah, 47%.
That's great.
47% increase in revenue, 4 to 14%. 35% at the same. So you got about 6 to 7% large increase. Amazing. About 45, 50% increase, slight increase, and then the rest kind of at the same.
All right. Well, I love to see it. This gives me a good feel for you who are in the room here today. And now I'd like to compare your answers to the answers of over 5,000 nonprofits and pull out some insights for you. So the top insight is that nonprofits are exhibiting hope for sustainable growth in 2024. So you can actually see, I think it's actually almost like very close, the increase in revenue percentages. So those of you who are feeling and expecting an increase in revenue this year, that kind of almost exactly maps to what we found in the acceleration report. But we did see a really rather large 28% of respondents expecting that large increase in revenue, and a little bit smaller of a section of organizations anticipating the same. Now, this data is really fresh off the presses. We collected this data between February and March of this year. So there might have been a couple of shifts in that time. But as we looked into the data, we ultimately see in 2024, there's this heightened focus on expanding financial resources for nonprofits this year as opposed to last year. So 45% of nonprofits are expecting a moderate increase in revenue, very similar to the responses here today. That's that 4 to 14% growth category, as opposed to last year, where only 38% of nonprofits responded the same. But interestingly, those who reported 15% or higher more than doubled from last year. It was 13.6% last year. It was 28% this year. But that doesn't mean that nonprofits are just blindly hopeful. I think that this really actually shows us there's a shift in this sector towards real growth, and not staying in the same place as you were last year. And there's also a trend where those who were anticipating high revenue growth also had the strategies backed up to prove it. So it's not just hope, it's actually hope tied directly with the strategies that they were using. So, for example, there was a direct correlation between those organization expecting high growth to those who were investing in digital advertising. So organizations that reported that they were expecting high growth also were planning to use Meta ads, Google ads, and YouTube ads. This was a huge increased likelihood. And those who are using those channels were also likely to predict high revenue growth. So that was a really great insight. So it's not just blind hope, it is hope and planning put together to actually drive sustainable revenue and predictable revenue growth. And we also saw in the organizations that reported that they were expecting a decline in revenue when it came to the digital channels that they were going to be using, we saw a way less likelihood to use kind of those emerging and upcoming fundraising and marketing channels, such as TikTok ads and fundraising with cryptocurrency. So this also showed us that it's really the organizations who are testing new channels, trying new things that are able to really drive that much growth this year. So you might want to reevaluate your channels and really explore adding new ones to drive growth this year. So action item for you is really to adopt that growth-oriented mindset at your organization, not just wishful thinking. So if you're expecting an increase in revenue, now is the time. We still have more than 6 months of the year yet. We're looking forward to year end 2024. So the things that you implement now, if you change your plans, you add some new channels, you adopt this innovative approach to marketing and fundraising at your organization, you're going to be able to drive growth the rest of the year and anticipate growth for next year as well. So another poll for you. I want to hear from you. What percent of your revenue is driven online? Is it less than 10%? Is it 10 to 20%, 21 to 30, 31 to 50? 51 to 80, or 81 to 100. This will be really interesting in order to, again, kind of benchmark yourself when it comes to what other organizations are doing. So I want to see where you're fitting in with percent of your total revenue driven online. There's going to be a lot of organizations that also have a lot of grants in place and so may have less online revenue, but really excited to see some of these results here. All right. And so I want to share a little bit more. There's 28% of you that have less than 10% of your revenue driven online. That 10 to 20% of 10 to 20% of revenue is 22%, 21 to 30, 19%, 31 through 50 is 13%, 51 through 80 is 14.5%, and 81 through 100, 2.9. Last chance to get in your votes. And I'm going to move it on to uncover some insights about online fundraising revenue. So over 5,000 responses, we analyzed it. And in 2024 versus 2023, there is a major, really, really major, dramatic increase in online fundraising revenue this year as opposed to last year. I've been working with nonprofits for 9 years. I've been keeping a pretty good pulse, I think, on a lot of the different reports out there and trying to understand, where digital fundraising fits in with the overall scope of fundraising for organizations. And this is probably the most dramatic increase that I think I've ever seen in the last 9 years of working with nonprofits. So the shift towards online fundraising being a greater portion of the revenue is massive. So you'll see in this graph here, the one in orange is the 2024 results. So you can see on the sliding scale that it's evening out. There's more organizations that are moving upwards to having more of their funds being raised online as opposed to last year, where a lot of organizations fell under that 50% rate. Still this year, but it really is more of that even distribution. You can see this gradual shift towards increased online fundraising revenue. And what I found to be completely staggering is that 34.61% of nonprofits reported raising over 50% of their total revenue online. That is a significant portion of the respondents here. Only 13.9% of respondents reported the same last year. So year over year, 247% increase in organizations reporting raising more than 50% of their total revenue online. So I want to really drive this home. There's so many deeper insights that we can pull out from this. So ultimately, overall, there's that, substantial gradual shift to increased online revenue for organizations. And there's that decline in those lower rates. Totally makes sense, right? There's that shift happening, but I wanted to break it out and really understand a little bit more about what's happening with those organizations that are raising 50% of their revenue online or more, and that can help nonprofits that are maybe still moving in that direction catch up. So I found it really interesting that board constraints were a significant uptick in a major growth obstacle reported from organizations raising more than 50% of their revenue online. So it shows that organizations are trying to evolve. They're trying to meet donor demands, consumer demands quickly, easy ways to give, that fundraising infrastructure has a big part of it, but boards may not see the value yet of these digital fundraising opportunities. So that is something that you're going to want to take with you where, with such a major shift, we do need to, as organizations, catch up, meet donors where they are, but boards may be something that are really essential to unlock that opportunity for your organization. So working with your board, getting them educated, helping them truly understand the potential ROI and the value and the percent of new revenue that this can unlock for your organization is a true key to driving growth. We also saw a really increased importance. We asked organizations to rate how important a number of marketing channels were for their organizations. Those raising 50% or more of their revenue online had way higher increased importance placed on email marketing to drive donations. So if you're trying to increase your online donation revenue, that's going to be key for you. And they were also substantially more likely to agree that they were effectively implementing their digital strategy. Maybe this is not a surprise, but it also does show that there's a lot of strategic planning as well as also educating yourself on the newest and latest digital marketing and fundraising strategies so that you're able to confidently move forward with your strategy. So digital fundraising and digital advertising are also directly correlated. So looking at those organizations that were investing more into digital advertising, they were also bringing in more funds digitally. So organizations raising 90% or more of their revenue had the highest digital advertising budgets, kind of underlining and emphasizing the importance of digital engagement in your digital fundraising efforts. So if you're looking to further shift and increase your online revenue, digital advertising is a true key and has been proven to unlock that for a lot of the organizations that even, we here at Community Boost work with.
Candace, we had a question come through. Sorry to interrupt you, but maybe you can clarify what you mean by online revenue. So can you talk a little bit about sort of how you're defining that? Is it gifts coming through forms, through emails, things like that? So maybe you can just clarify that for us.
Yeah, so it's any donation coming through an online channel. So that looks like your donation format on your website. It looks like your email fundraising efforts. It looks like when you do an online peer-to-peer campaign, really anything that falls in a donation coming through online. So thanks for the question. Great question. All right. So, action item for you is that there is this really highly prevalent, urgent need to pivot towards focusing on your digital strategy because it can unlock new revenue and drive growth for your organization. But the first step to that is addressing those internal barriers. It's meeting with your board, helping them get the education they need to also get the resources for investing and scaling your digital fundraising efforts. And then also by allocating more resources strategically towards digital engagements, especially digital advertising and email marketing channels, you can really optimize your online fundraising potential. But one huge caveat to this is that it's not just about having a tool to take donations online. It's having the right tools and the right infrastructure, the right tech stack in place to both raise funds easily as well as track funds effectively. And that's something that Virtuous does so well, right? Their CRM is absolutely amazing. There's built-in fundraising tools, but it also tracks every interaction that you have with your audience. And this can help you segment and communicate. We're at the Responsive Nonprofit Summit, right? We're talking about responding to your audience and communicating with them in the right ways, segmenting out portions of your community effectively so that you're communicating the right calls to action at the right time, and ultimately deepening both those donor relationships, communicating with them in the ways that they want to be communicated with, and when they're most likely to give. So that infrastructure is so essential. And so in order for you to truly scale, you're going to need to take a look at your tools and also make sure it's easy for you, right? There's so many tools out there, but if you're using a fundraising platform and then a payment processor and then you have your accounting software, all these things need to talk to each other so that you're not wasting time trying to reconcile this data. So make sure those integrations are available to make it easy for yourself and to automate things whenever possible. And something this year is that you're able to truly integrate AI into your fundraising efforts so that you can also maximize fundraising and get rid of those repeatable tasks that can now be handled by AI platforms. So moving on, I want to know, what do you struggle with the most when it comes to your digital marketing efforts? Is it budget? Is it board constraints? Is it limited time? Is it outdated tech? Is it staff turnover? Is it lack of education on tech? Is it something else? Maybe it's storytelling. Maybe it's some other challenge. So you can put that in the chat, but everyone else can go ahead and vote right now. Just put the top challenge that you are feeling pressure from right now. I think we're going to talk about in a little bit that all of these things kind of interact, and a lot of these things can play off one another, but do your best to kind of pinpoint the top thing preventing growth at your organization right now. So I'm going to vote myself because looks like I need to vote in order to see the full responses. And so, yeah, some good data already in here. Keep it coming. Let me know, what's your top struggle? All right, so we're looking at a lot of budgetary constraints. So 35% of you are saying budget. Limited time is a close second at 32%. And lack of education on tech is coming in at 25%. And I think that you are in the right place. Thank you for showing up to events like this one, because this is really where you're going to get the education that you need to implement all these strategies. So this was super helpful. Some of those struggling with outdated tech. And I wanted to show you really what the overall report showed. So the top challenges continue to be from 2023 to 24, time and budget. Last year, they both came in at 23%. This year, they both came in at 27%. These things are so closely tied together, and it's an increased emphasis from last year. So 23% from last year, 27% this year. So it just really shows that nonprofits have this increased burden to get more things done in less time and with limited resources. So I'm sure that resonates with you. I empathize with you. I feel that as well. And so when it comes to pulling out some insights into, removing these barriers so that you're able to drive the growth for your organization, I was really curious to see if this was affected by team size, because, organizations, and so we did ask organizations, if you have a full-time marketing person, because not every organization does, but if you do, how large is that marketing team size? And so the kind of maybe disappointing thing is that team size didn't actually fix this. It was pretty consistent across organizations of all team sizes that time and budget were the number one challenge. But interestingly enough, there was a noticeable pattern that in organizations with larger team sizes were more likely to also rate staff turnover and board constraints among the top challenges facing them and preventing growth. So again, it looks like board constraints actually might be something that it feels like it's time and budget that are the problem, but it may be some of the board constraints as well as outdated tech that are making time and budgets a little more complicated for organizations. That's some of the board constraints are preventing these time saving opportunities for organizations. So there was also an overall increase in board constraint as a hurdle overall. And so this is just something that I'll talk to on the next slide of how we can get our boards on board with our decision-making process so that you're able to get the tech as well as the just overall buy-in into your strategy so that you're able to further your growth. So we also saw that the more an organization raises online, the more likely they were actually able to see increased reports of outdated tech preventing their growth as well. So again, this is something where you want to take a look at your fundraising infrastructure as well as guide your boards on those effective decision-making processes. And overall, there's been some greater recognition of technological limitations as the number one thing preventing growth. So there was pretty significant growth in that category from last year to this year. So this is just a really great time to invest in upgrading and maintaining your digital marketing and fundraising systems and adopting that CRM that's going to help guide the way. So action items for you. There's a lot that you are working through. There's only so much time you have in the day. I really encourage you. I'm sure there's so many sessions here on time-saving automation and AI technology. So I really encourage you to leverage this to its fullest potential so that you're getting some of those repeatable tasks off your plate and leveraging the tools, the full array of tools that you have available to save time wherever possible. I know every day I'm writing emails. I do leverage ChatGPT to at least help me get started on a lot of those, and then I can make my edits. And the more you use it, the easier it is to get the things that you want out of it. So even something as simple as writing an email, you can save time with AI. Also, advanced reporting, I think, is actually one of the things that a lot of nonprofits can gloss over because there's only so much time in the day, right? Who has time to be writing all these reports? But if you are reporting back to your team as well as your board exactly what you're doing when it comes to your digital marketing and fundraising and the return on investment from those, it can help provide the proof and the guidance needed for leaderships and board members to make those effective decisions for your organization. So I really think by, even just taking a look at like, hey, we spent $100 on meta ads and we actually raised $10,000. That's a huge, huge data point that you can bring back to your board and get more buy-in for digital advertising. And that's just an example. You can do the same with any channel that you're using or any platform that you're using. So if you're exploring a platform, how much more will you raise by adopting a platform that increases your conversion rates? So you're getting more donors from your donation page. And I really just encourage you to do small tests because you can't always jump right into something big. There's only so much time. When you try out a new opportunity and do small tests and report back on that, you're able to get, again, that buy-in that can really help you drive your organization forward. Again, I also just think just having maybe like lunch and learns with your board members, or trying to foster your board members' deeper understanding of the digital trends in the sector and how crucial these strategies are for your organization. Moving and accelerating your organization's growth can really help. So even by sending them the report, right, they can learn a little bit more about what the trends are in the sector and what's resonating with donors. Upgrade your technological infrastructure. We already talked about that. Also, there's something where it's like at organizations, I feel like there's so many of you who are wearing so many hats. There's only so many things you can be an expert on. So I really do encourage you, especially if you have limited time and budget, to consider using a contractor, consultant, or an agency that can, really, that already is an expert in the new channels that you're looking to use, because they're going to be able to do it in less time, as well as maximize return on investment off the bat. And so you can lean on their expertise, and it doesn't all have to come from you, because it does take time to become an expert in a lot of these digital strategies. So don't be afraid to leverage outside help, because you're going to be able to see quicker return on an investment. All right, I want to hear from you. How does your organization resource its digital marketing efforts? I know we have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to kind of speed through some of these next slides. So are you using full-time staff, or do you have part-time staff? Do you have an agency? Do you have volunteers helping you? Do you have consultants or contractors? Or do you not have any staff dedicated to your marketing efforts? And so I'm going to vote. Give me 1 second. I am a full-time in-house staff. All right. So looks like there's a lot of you with full-time staff here. So there's a lot of responses still coming in. I won't read them off just yet. Let you find yourself in here. So it's looking to be pretty consistent. So I'm going to start reading them, but feel free to continue answering. So it looks like the majority of organizations have full-time in-house staff dedicated to marketing. This is great. So I love to see it. A lot of you are also leveraging part-time staff, consultants and contractors, volunteers, and agencies. And for those of you that say none, you'll get there one day. We just gotta get your organization growing. And my heart, I feel you, because I've been there. So I'm so glad that you're here and getting all of these insights so that you're able to effectively market your organization. So overall, number 4 insight was that nonprofits are increasing their investment into resourcing digital marketing at their organizations. We saw somewhat similar results. There was a lot of full-time staff, which really increased just from last year. So I love to see growth in that area. But there was also significant growth in agencies and volunteers. So I really love this, that there's this strategic shift towards internal capabilities. And then this is something where you want to also invest in those at your organization, because those are the people who are going to be moving your organization forward. They're going to be driving that growth. So even just some investments into professional development for your internal staff can really go a long way in honing team skills. Also, I love that there's this increase in volunteers, and actually the percentage with little to no support for marketing remained pretty consistent year over year. So action items for you here is just to invest again in your in-house staff to support growth. Continue bringing in agencies and consultants that specialize in services so you can scale quickly. This really can alleviate a lot of pressure on you to become an expert. You can always learn from these agencies and consultants as well, and adopt that internal over time. But to just get you started, it's a really great opportunity. There's also contractors. So maybe even, contractors that can come in and alleviate some repeatable tasks for you. And then also volunteers as a free way to resource your marketing efforts. My only caution with this is just consider the time it takes to manage those volunteers, as well as the quality of the volunteers and the work they're producing, because in my experience I see a lot of organizations with volunteers maybe managing their social media, but it's not necessarily managed the same way that if someone was being compensated for that, they would manage it. So just kind of keep an eye on that. There's really amazing volunteers out there that want to support in that way. But you just want to keep an eye on time management and quality. My recommendation for you, if you wanted to go this route, is Taproot Foundation. They have some incredible resources for organizations to actually match skilled workers with those who want to volunteer for organizations. So I encourage you to check that out. So I want to know how your organization is doing. How likely do you how much do you agree with this statement? Our nonprofit executes effectively on our digital marketing strategy and consistently drives online results. Strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. I'm going to speed through this because we have about 5 minutes left. All right, so we're looking at a lot of responses in the agree category. Almost equal number of responses in the neutral category. There's a lot of you who disagree, and there's 2.38% of you that agree. You guys can be teaching this webinar. You can just take my place up here right now because you're rock stars. So this is all really great. What I am seeing overall in the sector is that the confidence and significance of multi-channel marketing for nonprofits is on the rise. Between 2023 and 2024, nonprofits saying that they strongly agree that they were effectively executing their digital marketing efforts was 35% of organizations versus only 8.9% in 2023. So I love to see that dramatic increase in that category. There's so many organizations that are in that agree category. A lot of organizations still in that neutral category, but overall it decreased from 25% of organizations falling in that category to 14%. So there's again this overall shift to feeling more confident in your marketing strategies. And I think a lot of nonprofits are also executing more multi-channel marketing effectively than ever before. We asked nonprofits to rate how important email marketing, SEO, social media, Google Ads, so many different channels, how important this was for your organization's marketing. And overall, across all of the channels, there was a 56.89% increase in the overall importance of all of these channels for their marketing efforts. So there's this really clear trend in channel usage. There's an increase in email marketing, how often nonprofits are using that. The importance of email marketing to your strategy is still the number one most important channel for organizations. Number 2 was social media. Number 3 was direct mail. We are still doing direct mail, guys. It is still a part of the fundraising infrastructure. There is still a lot of the particularly older generations and donors that are going to be best reached by direct mail. And there's been some studies that it also really resonates with millennials. Google Ad Grant was number 4. SEO was number 5. This was actually a huge increase from last year. So I love search engine optimization that get that organic traffic going to your website. SMS, so mass texting, doubled in importance from last year to this year. So there's a huge uptick in that. Paid advertising channels. So all of those Microsoft ads, those Google ads, those paid search ads, all of this increased, as well as emerging platforms like TikTok ads actually gained a lot of attention, increased about double in the likelihood of nonprofits to use those channels this year. So action items for you is just to consider those top ranked channels. Which ones are you not leveraging effectively, and see which ones you can incorporate into your strategy. I really encourage organizations to try just one new channel for every next big marketing or fundraising push you're doing. Don't try to do them all at the same time. Just, try new things, make it part of, innovation at your organization. And also make remarketing a priority to engage your audience. It's not just about the new audiences that you're bringing in, it's about nurturing and engaging your existing audience. So you can use advertising to target your existing audience, to target your existing donors. And that's paid off in huge dividends for the clients that Community Boost works with, is really nurturing those channels. So I want to be mindful of time. I know we're wrapping up in a minute. Number 6 was that social media overall is just trending upwards for organizations. Last year, most organizations only used 2 to 3 social media platforms. This year, organizations were more in that 3 to 4 platform category. And posting frequency overall throughout all the different platforms has increased about 20%. So we ranked all of them in order: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, top 6 channels. Again, this is a really simple thing you can do, is just adopt one new social platform this year, as well as for those smaller organizations where maybe you can't just bring on a new platform this year, just increase your presence, increase your posting frequency. I know there's a lot going on with TikTok. It still has doubled in importance from last year to this year. So if you're not already on TikTok, try it out. Video content is king in today's landscape, so don't overlook video content. AI can help generate a lot of this content for you. And I really also just ask that you engage your community and also sourcing social content. So number 7 was that digital advertising stands out as a lead growth driver. Nonprofits' average investment into digital advertising increased 27% from last year. We broke this down into the most important channels. It looks like Meta ads, Google ads, and YouTube ads really stand out as one of those primary things driving growth. LinkedIn ads and TikTok ads are really great to test this year. Twitter and display ads can be leveraged effectively, but you might want to just kind of consider testing those further. And ultimately, having that surround sound type of experience where you're targeting your potential and existing donors on multiple platforms has really increased the number of times people are exposed to your nonprofit, as well as increasing their likelihood to give. So increased ad budget overall equals increased number of dollars raised for your organization. And if you're not already using it, you can maximize $120,000 a year in free ad spend with the Google Ad Grant. Don't sleep on it. You can really maximize that $10,000 a month. And also Microsoft Ads for social impact is open for applications. Last thing here is just the recurring giving is essential to meeting fundraising goals. Among respondents who achieved their 2023 fundraising goals, 93%, almost 94 had recurring giving in place and were using that. Those organizations who surpassed their goals had an even higher percentage, with 96.43 utilizing recurring giving, and those that didn't meet their goals, only 71% had recurring giving in place. So recurring giving is your path to sustainable growth. It's also your path to having long-term relationships with your donors. And last but not least, ultimately, the summary here is to just test something new, keep innovating at your organization. There's so many new opportunities for your organization, but you can't do them all. Pick a few of the strategies that we talked about today and just try something new this year. And if anything else, systemized AI adoption can actually really help alleviate those time and budget constraints. So this is less at a personal scale, but more on an organizational scale. So your entire team is educated and knowing how to use AI to automate repetitive tasks, personalize donor communications at scale, enhance your predictive analytics, how much a donor is more likely to give and give again and give more. And it really is a huge opportunity where this year, like last year, I feel like it was more about organizations just testing it out for yourself. You're just implementing this for you. This year, it's more about implementing it at that organizational level. And Beth Cantor has some great resources on this. 9 top takeaways. Nonprofits are exhibiting hope for sustainable growth. Number 2, online fundraising revenue is dramatically increasing. Number 3, time and budget continue to be nonprofits' number 1 challenge. Nonprofits are overall increasing their investment into digital marketing. Confidence and significance of multi-channel marketing is on the rise. Social media trends upwards for organizations. Digital advertising stands out as a lead growth driver. Recurring giving is essential to meeting your fundraising goals, and emerging trends can be leveraged to future-proof your nonprofit. You can download the Nonprofit Acceleration Report right now. You can go to accelerationreport.org or scan the QR code and get your report. You can, again, keep this for yourself, share it with the team, share it with the board. And if you're interested in scaling your nonprofit with digital advertising, I'd love to invite you to Nonprofit Ad Day. It's coming up on June 6th. So you can register now for free. And if you're interested in chatting a little bit more about how Community Boost can help accelerate your nonprofit's growth, you can book a time to chat. And that is all my time. Thank you so much for having me here. Sorry, I ran a little bit over. This is fresh off the presses. We literally just released the report yesterday, so only my second time running through this. So thank you so much, Jason, and thank you so much to Virtuous for this amazing opportunity.
Thank you. Honestly, so much great content. The chat has been blowing up the whole session, and I know I had a lot of takeaways. I even saw one of our marketing folks from Virtuous chiming in as well. So lots of just great insights to learn from. Thanks for the time putting this together. So for all of you, hope that was insightful. I know it was insightful, and I know there's going to be a lot of things that these organizations are going to take back. Big encouragement there. Start small, right? There's so much there that you could do. Pick something, start small. Even just a little lean forward is going to be a positive direction. So we are wrapping up now the second session of the last day of the Responsive Nonprofit Summit. The final session is coming up in just a few minutes, about 10 minutes. And then we're going to wrap up this amazing event for 2024. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We could not do this without them. Thank you to Candace. Thank you to Community Boost for all of the work that y'all do to help the nonprofit space. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you back here in just a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Jason. Thank you.